Could your brain be turning on your pain? It's very likely it is. And that's what I'm going to help you determine in this episode of Wellness by Design. I'm your host, Jane Hogan, the Wellness Engineer, and I help people reverse chronic pain by dealing with the root cause. And the root cause of most chronic pain is actually where our brain gets involved. And it's very easy to teach your brain something different. Now, I talk about this and how you can address the root cause in my webinars. If you haven't come to one of my webinars before, make sure you sign up. Go to thewellnessengineer.com/webinar to join my next one. You'll really hear about how easy it is to reverse pain when you address root causes. All right, let's dive into the episode. But before I do, please, if you haven't done so before, show some gratitude and leave a review, a rating, subscribe, share this podcast, leave a comment, let me know what you think. I pour my heart and soul into this work, and I do it because I'm on a mission to help do something about the chronic pain epidemic that we have in this world, because I want people to live their best lives. And you can't do it if you're in pain. I know that. I was there. Now I've changed that and I'm able to live my best life. Okay, I'll see you inside the episode. All right, here's what I'm going to talk about today. First of all, I'm going to help you. I'm going to talk about what is this pain that's modulated by the brain. Then we're going to talk about how to know that it's not that, because we do want to make sure it's not that kind of pain. The pain that I help people with is not structural pain, but I'll give you some ideas on how to know whether it's structural pain. And also, we're going to talk about how typical types of syndromes and things that are usually modulated by the brain. And then also how to identify if this type of pain is actually being modulated by the brain. So I'm going to give you some really easy ways to know that. And then stay tuned till the end, because I'm going to tell you what your next step is, the number one next step. All right, so let's get started. First of all, there's a lot of different words for this kind of pain. Years ago, John Sarno talked about this pain and he called it TMS pain. If you've read anything by Howard Schubiner, he, in his book called Unlearn Your Pain, he calls it mind-body syndrome. There's another great book called, oh gosh, I've forgotten it now. The Way Out, and then he calls it neuroplastic pain. Some people call it centrally sensitized pain. Whatever term you use for it, and I'm going to use neuroplastic pain. It is, the reason why we say neuroplastic is because the brain's involved. The brain basically learns pain. It creates pain as a form of protection, and then the pathways are made over and over again in the brain, because the neurons that fire together wire together, so we get the wiring that happens for the brain. So this doesn't mean, even though we're saying the pain is being modulated by the brain, it doesn't mean that your pain isn't real. The pain is real. If you feel pain, it's real pain. It definitely is real pain. But it doesn't necessarily mean that there's something physically wrong. We've been led to believe most of the time that if we've got pain, there's a physical reason for the pain. But what we know from this latest research in neuroscience is that most pain is not due to a physical reason. Okay, so let's talk about some of the typical conditions, first of all, that are often this type of pain. And it may surprise you. Things like, and I'm going to read from my list here, I made a big list: irritable bowel syndrome, migraine and tension headaches, complex regional pain system, CRPS, fibromyalgia, myofascial pain syndrome, multiple chemical sensitivities, irritable bowel syndrome, pelvic pain, chronic tendinitis, insomnia, chronic abdominal pain, numbness, tingling, tinnitus, dizziness, repetitive strain injuries, anxiety, depression, chronic fatigue, long-term COVID, the majority of chronic neck and back pain, pain all over the body, TMJ, carpal tunnel syndrome, and for me, rheumatoid arthritis, I know to be also related to this. So it may surprise you to hear this, but what we know is that if this is the truth, most of these pain conditions often don't have a physical reason. In fact, I've heard some practitioners say 85% of chronic pain cases actually do not have a physical reason. Now, you may be told that there's a structural reason. Now, there may be a structural reason. So let's talk about that next. So, how to know if the pain is caused by a structural issue? You need to work with your doctor to figure this out. So, you want to rule out if there's a tumor. Okay, if you have a tumor, that is physical pain. If you have like a serious infection, that could be the cause, a physical cause for pain. Some inflammatory conditions, but not all inflammation. A fracture, right? If you have a fracture or something like that, yes, there could be a reason for it. Now, a lot of people are told that they have a physical reason. And what we know from a lot of the research now is that these are actually not a reason for physical pain. But if you're told that they're a reason for physical pain, then your brain latches onto that and will turn on the physical pain. So here's some of those examples. Degenerative discs, spurs, bulging discs, arthritis, scar tissue, misalignments, inflammation that can't be seen, old injuries, scar tissues. I think I said scar tissue. Yeah. And none of these should be interpreted as the cause of chronic pain. There's a really great diagram that's put out by the Advanced Physical Therapy Education Institute, APTEI. And I'm going to share my screen. Now, I know if you're listening to the podcast, you're not going to be able to see this. So you may want to come back or go to my YouTube channel to have a look at it. So I'm going to share my screen and let's go find it. Okay, let me share my screen. So this is a diagram and I'll share the link where you can download this diagram from the APTEI. Concerned about your X-ray or MRI findings, medical imaging, the untold truth. So, I mean, there's a lot of little text on this, which I know you're not going to be able to read, but I just want to point out some things for you. So this lumbar spine, it's pointing to the lumbar spine down here, where a lot of people have problems. It says that studies have shown that lumbar disc degeneration is present in 40% of individuals under the age of 30 and is present in over 90% of those between the ages of 50 and 55. And it goes on to explain a little bit more. The translation of this, they say, do not panic if your X-ray or MRI shows problems with your discs. They are simply normal changes that happen from the age of 20 onwards. Another example here I'm going to go to for the knee. So it says studies have shown that when X-rayed, up to 85% of adults with no actual knee pain have X-rays that show knee arthritis. This means that there's little correlation between the degree of arthritis seen on X-ray and actual pain. In fact, one study showed that 48% of healthy professional basketball players had meniscal cartilage damage on their knee MRIs. The translation: do not panic if your knee X-ray or MRI shows degeneration, arthritis, or mild cartilage tears. It is normal. Similarly, I'll just go to another one here on the shoulder. MRI studies of adults who have no shoulder pain show that 20% have partial rotator cuff tears and 15% have full thickness tears. In addition, in those 60 and older, 50% who had no shoulder pain or injury had rotator cuff tears on their MRI that they did not even know about. A study on professional baseball pitchers showed that 40% of them had either partial or full thickness rotator cuff tears, yet had no pain while playing and remained pain-free even 5 years after the study. Translation: do not panic if your ultrasound and or MRI shows a rotator cuff tear. It is not necessarily associated with shoulder pain. And they have similar things for the hip, ankle, cervical spine, and thoracic spine. So I'm not going to read all of those, but I just wanted to share with you that there are plenty of studies showing that abnormalities on X-rays and MRIs do not correlate with pain. But if you're told you got pain in your knee and you're told, well, you've got arthritis in your knee, you're going to think that there's a physical reason. And there just most of the time is not. So I've shared that one with you. And I need to get back to my notes here. So I'll share that link with you and you can have a look at that diagram for yourself. And the reason why I'm doing this is to help you and help your brain believe that there's not a physical reason for your pain. So you want to make sure you work with your doctor, rule that out. So next I want to talk about how to know if the pain is neuroplastic pain. So first of all, we'll look at functional symptoms. So this can mean that the pain begins without injury or persists after injury is healed. Most injuries will heal within a couple, 3 months. Pain that persists after that is not due to the physical injury. The pain could be symmetrical or on only half of the body. For example, half of the head or the face or the torso. The pain could spread over time to different areas of the body. The pain could radiate to the opposite side of the body or down a whole leg or an arm. These are symptoms of neuroplastic pain, not physical pain or pain that's due to a physical cause. It could be in many parts of the body at the same time. You could have symptoms of tingling, electric, burning, numb, hot, or cold. So these can all be symptoms of pain that is caused by the brain modulating the pain. Doesn't mean the pain's not real. Remember, I still want you to understand and know that the pain is real. Inconsistent symptoms. So they can shift from one location to another. One day the pain, this happened to me, the pain was in one shoulder, the next day it was in the other shoulder. It can change in intensity during the day. So for example, worse in the morning than it is later in the day or over time. Can occur after, but not during activity or exercise. Usually if there's a physical reason, it'll be worse during the exercise and then stop after. Worse when you think about the symptoms. So if you're thinking about the pain or someone asks you about the pain, it feels worse. Can occur or get worse when you're stressed or you're thinking about a stressful situation. It can be reduced or gone after you do some kind of therapy like massage therapy or Reiki or chiropractic or acupuncture or herbal or vitamin supplements. The pain goes away. That is also linked to this neuroplastic pain because your brain is working with you then, right? The symptoms can be triggered. So triggered by food, smells, sounds, light, computer screens, changes in the weather. It can be triggered by just thinking about I got a stressful event coming up. So you could be anticipating a stressful meeting or a stressful encounter. When you're imagining that you're engaging in a triggering activity. So you might imagine like, oh, just imagining bending over could actually make your back pain worse. Light touch, wind, cold or heat. If the pain is being triggered by that, it's not usually due to a physical reason. Stressful life events. So did the pain come on during a stressful event or just after a stressful event? So for me, my worst, like it started after my mother died and after that stressful year afterwards. Childhood stress, even if it's mild, if it generated strong emotions, even if it was one incident, if it generated strong emotions, that could be leaving a lasting impression in your brain. So, for example, if your parents argued, if they belittled you, if they didn't show love or affection, if they were aloof, or if they drank, compared you to siblings or other people, if money was a concern. So, those kinds of childhood events are triggering events for us. They last, we make impressions and ideas and thoughts about them. Siblings, how was your relationship with your siblings? Did any of your siblings have any illnesses, or were they acting out and kind of bad all the time? And maybe you tried to cover up for them. Like, how did you react to that? Was there teasing or meanness or jealousies? And of course, there's the what we think of as more severe trauma, adverse childhood events, like the real traumatic events, like deaths in the family, or divorce, or abuse, or taunting, or teasing, changing schools a lot, conflicts with family members or teachers. So these events in our childhood, they may have happened in our childhood, but we may feel the effects of them years and years later. The subconscious mind doesn't forget these things. So common personality traits, I call them like, it's like their personality traits of protection. So we created protection or response to these things. So it could be things like low self-esteem, perfectionist, high expectations for yourself, you're a people pleaser, frequently feel guilty, feeling dependent on others, conscientious, really hard on yourself, overly responsible, have difficulty making decisions. You're a rule follower, you're cautious, shy or reserved, hold on to thoughts and feelings, you don't express yourself, and you don't stand up for yourself. You have a hard time saying no. So these often are the personality traits of pain. And also look at when symptoms began. So have a look back at your life and just, was there some kind of stressful event right before the symptoms? And maybe you see patterns over your life when you had stressful events and then you had symptoms. All right. So I told you that I would tell you the next step for you to do. So this was a lot to think about, and you may need to listen to this over and over again to understand that there's a possibility that there's nothing physically wrong with you. And this doesn't mean you're making up the pain. The pain is real, but your brain is creating that pain to protect you. And when you can understand that and believe that, even if you don't believe it 100%, but you can kind of shift a little bit, say, there is a possibility. And I've noticed some of these things that Jane was talking about, that I want you to make the decision that there's nothing wrong with you. Okay? Nothing physically wrong with you. Because when you let go of that, then we can teach our brain differently. We can teach our brain how to let go of pain. So that's what I'm talking about in my webinars. When you sign up for my webinar, I'm going to tell you how we can do that next step. But the first part of it, listening to this, is making that decision that there's nothing wrong with you. Your brain has just been trying to protect you. And it's good. It's good that it's trying to protect you, but we can change the message. But the first step is admitting that there's nothing wrong with you. All right. So I always talk about what's one thing you can do today that's going to begin to initiate healing. And that one thing for you today is to look at this evidence that I presented with you today. So as long as you haven't found a structural reason, no tumors, no major infections, no broken fractures and things like that, then there is a very good possibility that the pain you're experiencing, the real pain that you're experiencing, is neuroplastic pain. And there's nothing physically wrong with you. And with that, my friend, you can find freedom. That's the first step. Now we have to teach our brain a new way to learn, to unlearn that pain, as Howard Schubiner calls it. But it is possible. I see it all the time. I've seen people helped with this, and it can change your life. So have a look over the evidence again. Can you say to yourself, there's nothing wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with me. Make that decision. All right, let me know in the comments if this was helpful for you. And make sure that if you aren't already subscribed and part of my community, then join in, because this is what I do. I help people take the pain that they're experiencing, teach their brain how to unlearn the pain, rewire their brain so that you can teach your body it's safe and it can let go of the pain, and then you can get on with living your life again. Now, speaking of that, I have a book. I have a book that's coming out July 22nd. The ebook is available July 8th, but my book, Pain Free on Purpose, Use Your Mind to Heal Your Body and Get Your Life Back, is available in softcover July 22nd. And if you buy the book, just go to my website, thewellnessengineer.com/book. If you, when you buy the book and then let me know, give me the evidence that you've bought the book, then I've got some wonderful resources for you, free resources to go along, not just the resources that come with the book automatically, but even more resources and tools for you to help you teach your brain how to unlearn the pain, rewire the brain, use your mind to heal your body. All right, my friend, I look forward to your comments. I want to say thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you. I'm so grateful for you and for this work that I get to do, and how I can teach you what I'm learning so that you don't have to do all the research. I do it for you. I just want you to take that step and understand that there's a different way. All right, I'll see you again soon on the next episode of Wellness by Design.